welcome to our Titans panel, season 2 revisited. So I wanted to just welcome you all here. It's our third live panel, and then there's lots of ones on the Fantrack channel as well to check out. We're also in Discord, so don't be shy about coming in there and chatting about all the geeky shows that you love, because we all love them too. So I'm Kelly Harkins. I'm the director of the American Science Fiction Fantasy Media Track, and we're going to look at Titans. I've been a fan of Titans for a very long time. We were showing stuff off earlier. I have like all the new Titan stuff from way long ago when they were introduced too, as I know several of my other panelists have done that too. So, SMAP, do you want to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm Sharon Marie Antoinette Palmer, or SMAP as my friends call me. I'm one of the volunteers in the American Sci-Fi and Fantasy Track, and I have been a fan of the Titans since the comic book back in 1980. Actually, I was a fan before the new Titans, back when they were just the Teen Titans. So I love the show. My favorite character is Dick Grayson, no matter what incarnation he is, and I'm loving him.
Waylon?
I've right under the name Waylon Smith, unless you really hate this panel, and then my name is Jim Butcher. I have been reading comics since Jim knows how to do the joke. He's okay with it. I've been reading comics since the mid-'80s, so I have a lot of the old stuff, including when Dick first gave up being Robin and moving on to Nightwing, who is my favorite character, in case you couldn't tell from the shrine behind me. Yep, that's the one. Mm-hmm. I review all comic book shows on a site called comicbookclog.com, and one of my ongoing novel series is about superhuman mercenaries.
Cool.
My name is Gary Lindros. I've been collecting and reading since about 1977. My first experience with these Titans were DC Comics Presents. It was a Superman Green Lantern crossover, and they had the insert with the teaser for the Teen Titans. Ooh. And so as I was skimming through, I can still remember sitting in back of my grandmother's seat. Hey, this is pretty good. And I've enjoyed it ever since. I followed the ups and downs with Dick Grayson as well, and have come to enjoy him as a character. Where throughout the Robin TV series and even early Batman, I never cared for the character that much. Marv and George really brought him to life for me, and thankfully, for the most part, I've really enjoyed most of his storylines going forward. Rick Grayson, but anyway, that as well as the cast of characters they introduced, were very original, and I've loved not only the street level things they've done, but also the intergalactic ones. I don't know if we'll get more of a touch of that in coming seasons, but we'll have to see.
Kevin?
Hey. Yeah, I'm Kevin. I am a podcaster. My show is called The Flopcast. It's part of the ESO network, and it's just a ridiculous, silly, goofy, geeky show every week. And we do a lot of 70s, 80s pop culture stuff. And I'm a longtime comic book fan, just like everyone else that we've heard from here, going back with the Teen Titans. Way back. I remember getting my Teen Titans Mego action figures in the 70s. Oh, wow. Nice. Oh yeah, still have them. I still have them. And the comic books I was reading, it's certainly at the time that New Teen Titans started in 1980, but man, I've got a complete run of Teen Titans comics from when they started in the 60s up through the 80s. I know all that stuff, and it's been fun seeing how much they're drawing from, especially from the Wolfman Perez era for this show, so it's been fun.
And last but not least,
I actually am probably the person who came to this the most recently. Mostly when it came to Titans, I could take or leave them. I was mostly into the Bat family and have been since I was very, very small. And so when I came into it, hilariously, my favorite character is actually Red Hood. So a lot of where I came into the Titans was some of the different clashes they had with different people. But yeah, no, I love me some Bat Fam, and watching 2 seasons of this, I was just like, hi, hello, yes, where have you been all my life? So yeah, the show's just amazing. I can't wait to see what they do next.
Awesome. All right. So let's quick thoughts just on what your reactions were to season 2.
Garth
go.
deserved better.
Who's gonna? Who's up? I'll talk. My general impression was I was surprised by how much they threw at us, how much they were juggling to do Deathstroke and to do Rose and Blackfire.
She looks hot.
Yeah, and Dr. Light, and there were so many elements that were tossed in, and for a 13-episode series, and it didn't feel like there was too much there either. I felt like they paced it, they handled it well. So that was my general impression was, and the Trigon, Raven stuff.
I think they handled Trigon a little fast.
So that was kind of like the quick wrap up. Let's wrap up season 1 at the beginning of season 2. So that was sudden, but I kind of like that. It's like, all right, we got that. Let's move on.
Well, all those effects shootings have got to be expensive. So
yeah.
Well, it's like, my gut. Looking back now, my gut reaction was, well, Garth deserved better. And also, we should protect Garfield at all costs. And somebody needs to sit on Dick Grayson. And I do love Ian Glenn as Bruce. He's not someone that I would have, and I love the actor. He's one of my favorite actors, but he's not someone I would have immediately thought, oh, this could be Bruce Wayne. But then they introduced him, and I went, huh. Now there's an acting choice.
I know, it's like a puzzle piece. It just fit right in. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't think it would finish it. And
and he was having a blast.
Oh, he was
clearly, especially during that hallucination episode.
Yes.
That was brilliant.
Did we just get mansplained by Bruce Wayne or superhero splained? But yeah, no, I love their casting choices. I think they've really gotten very, very solid casting choices for all of their main cast. And I just, I laughed, I cried, it moved me. But seriously, someone needs to sit on Dick Grayson because
I just wanted to have more sort of. I never quite understood how he snapped the way he did through this. It seemed a little inconsistent for the history of the character, and even the motivation while it was happening. I'm just sort of scratching my head. Wait, I'm going to put myself in prison. I really had to.
That caught me off guard.
I really had to stretch.
There were a couple
go hike in the mountains or something like that. But it was a very it was a stretch. But then I almost yin yang him with Donna. Oh my gosh, what a rock for this team to hold it together, to make them work effectively. She was really the glue in a way that I guess in comics we expect Robin to be, but she was rock solid. The actress I thought did a phenomenal job of of not so much being interested, but not giving up, not refusing to do what has to be done too. And it was really well done. And I hope we get to see more of her. Really?
I think we will.
Spoilers are okay in this since the season's well over and everything. Her death scene made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
That was one where, from a writing point, from a character standpoint, the writers threw a dart and that's where it landed. They're like, okay, we can do this. And I do not understand any of that for the life of me.
Yeah, that was a little it was a little ridiculous and kind of cliche and rushed and like this very powerful superhero. Yeah. A thing falls on her all of a sudden.
Yeah, didn't they put her through enough with Garth? I mean, what? How much are you going to beat this woman down?
If something's going to take out Wonder Girl, it should be a little bigger than that. Just
falling
fell on her.
Yeah, yes. I mean, granted, I kind of want to think that they did that for a reason, and that and that it's going to come back into play in season 3, especially since Raven's in the mascara, and freaky deaky stuff happens all the time. This is DC Comics. I
think putting her on putting Raven on the plane to Themyscira with her tells us, all right, they're gonna bring her back.
These are going to get interesting in Themyscira.
Yeah. I hope that purple healing ray exists here.
Yeah. But it's interesting to see. I really did enjoy the back and forth we got from how Dick and Donna grew up.
Yes.
And how that training happened and I mean, granted, Dick didn't actually feel out of character to me because, I mean, granted, for me, I kind of base everything on this is in the show, and I'm going just strictly based off of what's currently in the show, what's being shown to me.
Yeah.
I find that makes TV a lot less stressful.
It's hard sometimes.
So,
But somebody's asking about Hawk and Dove here.
Well,
I thought they were well handled.
I wanted to kind of chime in with what Bethany said and what you guys were all saying about the whole, Nightwing and jail arc. And yes, I thought, no legal system works that fast.
No,
Yeah, the
no.
writers on this, I've got a background in law enforcement. I've been doing it for over 18 years. The writers on this have absolutely no clue how the criminal justice system works, how the prison system works. And one of the things I'm really curious about for season 3 is, unless they've done something really cool behind the scenes, at the start of season 3, Gar Logan and Dick Grayson are both wanted fugitives.
Yeah.
And I want to see, are they going to fix that? Are they going to pretend it didn't happen?
or
Is
are we
Bruce
just
gonna
gonna
bribe
keep
somebody?
running with it?
Well, I mean, I could see Bruce using his influence, but I hope they at least mention it instead of just,
Yeah.
oh, that didn't happen.
The thing that I
mean-
think is all about, though, is with kind of what Grayson was saying about the transition there and trying to stay in the media brain rather than the comic brain. And when I think back to the transition between Robin and Nightwing, honestly, in the comics, it didn't delve as much into that morality choice in I'm not going to be Batman. It was just I'm growing up, I'm going to be my own self. I'm not going to be the boy wonder. And with this one, it felt much more of I'm making a moral decision to not be my mentor, because especially with them having Bruce essentially haunting him.
Yeah.
So,
and that's been really, really fascinating to see too, especially since, of course, as my roommate can attest to, the thing I kept saying throughout season 1 is, doesn't he have a job? Is the Michigan Police Department like the Detroit
What
Police Department
superhero
not
keeps a
like
job? Come on.
curious about
Those detectives can go
Bruce's
anywhere.
ways?
so but okay, not to sidetrack, and Smap brought up the whole and we had some Facebook user bring up about Hawk and Dove. And of course we saw first season, we saw the whole thing, how Dawn was with Dick for a while and they, had the retro episode. And then of course now we had the difficulties with Hank and Dawn. So what do you guys feel like? I was going to bring up shipping a little bit later. So if we want to kind of touch on shipping a little bit, since that kind of was brought in, what do you guys think about some of those relationships this season?
The pairing of Dick and Dawn really sort of entertained me because I think Dawn is one of the few female Titans he hasn't been involved with in the comics. And I get to kind of complete the set for him in the TV show there. The Aqualad Wonder Girl one I thought was a little weird, or was that just me?
Yeah, that was a little strange.
I
liked it, but it was strange.
I could see where they would go for it, but
I mean, I was raised in fandom, so literally all TV shows are their own alternate universe until I'm told differently. So I kind of came into it with okay, that's a little interesting, but I can see where that would work. I mean, Atlantis and Themyscira have had their connections in the past, and so that makes a lot more sense than like Donna, Dick, or anything like that.
Yeah, they're both super powered, ancient civilizations. It seems I saw it and thought it was a good fit that I never really thought of till they introduced it to us. It's hard to keep up with either one of them by themselves. So it's it was a good fit, I think.
Yeah,
it was sort of nod to that in, I think it's season 3 of Young Justice. You get very brief cameos, and Donna and Garth are both the ambassadors from their respective civilizations to the UN.
Yes.
Which was this brilliant little scene that I thought was so well done.
Yes, that's been one of the really great things. It's been just like kind of watching Titans and then watching Young Justice and then kind of seeing just what kind of affects the other one and what little Easter eggs they get to sneak in. I really liked the Dawn Dick stuff because that one felt really natural to me because I'm like, oh yeah, of course you guys, society kids. That felt natural. And then the Hawk and Dove, that was really interesting the way they did that. And then what we got to see of their relationships and why certain things worked and why certain things didn't.
The karaoke
And I'm just
totally
all about
works.
some Corey, man.
Yes.
Yes,
It
the
always
karaoke
works,
works.
yeah. But no, I think it took a lot of courage to show a relationship that was so damaged, or at least that needed this kind of level of work. And you don't usually get that in a superhero show. You get anger maybe, and then people walk away or break up, or they kiss and make up before the end of the episode. So I thought it was nice that they really went into some reality and showed how how relationships can be messy and don't work out right and aren't smooth. I thought it was a nice homage to real life.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, superheroes. Superheroes are people too, and it definitely humanized them a lot. For that, I liked the Jason and Rose relationship because that's just kind of adorable, and I kind of hope we get to see that a little more in season 3, even though I know that they've got plans for season 3 that are going to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But
Let's save that to the end.
yeah.
Was it just me, or was Jason suddenly outing himself as a theater geek completely out of left field?
It seemed a little odd considering with the background they built for him, but
that surprised me.
From the streets, and I've always taken care of myself, and I steal things, and theater. It's what?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on the one hand, yeah, that was a little bit of a really sudden transition, but on the other hand, I can totally see where he had this, and then Bruce took him in, and he was actually introduced, and he's like, no, this is something I really like. I mean, granted, in the comics, Red Hood is canonically a lit nerd, so, he makes jokes about, how, these criminals are like so-and-so, like we could have a full-on poetry slam and still take care of them and have enough time.
Yeah.
So it's...
it was just the way they introduced it. It was just like, drop.
Yeah, the way they introduced it was weird, but it's not something that's like necessarily out of character for that character. And then Deathstroke. Can we talk about Deathstroke now?
Not yet. We'll get to villains. So, and then of course, in the comics, Corey and Dick is a staple, and they hinted at it in first season. Well, they didn't. They
blatantly did it.
I'm like, that's not it. That was not a hint.
Yeah.
No.
But this season they kind of backed off on that.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you? I mean, it seemed an odd choice.
At the risk of being very unpopular voice on a Titans panel, I've always liked Dick and Barbara a lot better than I've liked Dick and Corey together, because there were too many things about Dick and Corey that never made any sense to me. As far as why they would back off on the show all of a sudden, that only made sense from what I was seeing is if they were building up to something else for either one of them for a romantic relationship. And they sort of did that with Corey with her,
her bodyguard with
whatever
Badai, I think it is, or something.
Which was an interesting thing to see.
Today.
But it does seem like they sort of built towards it, and then I don't know. I think overall on Titans, with a lot of the sort of subplot issues, they would have been smoother if they'd had more time. Mm-hmm. Because, like we were talking about with the drop with Jason, I think a lot of things they just dropped the stuff out of nowhere that they could have built towards instead, and I guess they didn't have time.
Yeah, I mean,
well, we talk about the volume of material in here, and it is relentless. So, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid point. I mean, they do seem to be, at least, and we've kind of talked about some of these arcs and how they're not needing to finish them up because they're building long term, which is nice. So we're not having all these nice bows tied around things. But then it does still mean that they're doing a lot of setup and a lot of just kind of leaving things out there.
The arc that Dick Grayson was on through season 2, there really wasn't much room for any kind of romantic storyline.
Yeah.
No.
It's probably good that it would have shoehorned it.
Yeah. I mean, and like we were talking about with the prison thing. I mean, they have absolutely no idea how that actually functions in real life, which is actually okay for me because, it's Gotham and it's fictional Detroit. I'm not expecting
Except he was in Nevada, I think they kept saying when he was in prison.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, something like that.
Whatever
Yeah,
they
that
had.
was federal then. And yeah.
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 and it was one of those where I was like, no, this perfectly fits if Dick is being driven out of his actual mind by grief because the Titans being a thing again has dredged all this old stuff up that clearly he ain't never dealt with before.
Right.
But that's the kind of thing. I was like, yeah, no, that makes sense. That's the poor decision making that we come to see from Dick Grayson when he's out of his gourd.
Yeah.
So
He gets better.
So when we think about, we've touched on a couple of them, the newcomers we had this season. You know, we mentioned, Garth, we mentioned Rose a little bit, and Connor, one of the get our comments brought up on Connor, which of course is being dropped in, and then of course Jericho. So
Yeah.
so what did you guys think about some of these new characters?
I was so excited to see Jericho.
Yeah.
Again, going back to, New Teen Titans, he was one of my favorites when he was introduced, going back to the original Deathstroke, Judas Contract storyline and all that stuff. And yeah, that's a character that I didn't know that they would bother to bring in. They have so many characters. And yeah, I like the changes they made to the character, and they did some interesting things with him. So yeah, that was one that was really fun to see.
Yeah. I like the racial diversity too that they brought in with the
Absolutely.
new characters.
And it made sense, the racial diversity.
I really also like the disability rep.
Yep.
But then Jericho was deaf.
And it was
Jericho was mute.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was really nice to see that, and to see that there was no like angsting or, oh my god, how must I be cured? No, it's just a thing. We're just communicating. It's just a thing.
Yeah.
And it was that part. I think was probably the Jericho bits and the Deathstroke bits were my favorite parts of season 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the record store scenes.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
those are great.
We're really
I miss record stores.
Remember record stores?
going to stores at all.
But I mean, but getting to see some of those, and then getting to see Rose, who is just like completely ferocious and badass and amazing, and we could all use more, bulletproof, badass, amazing females in our lives. So,
Yeah.
and then
They make good foils for each other too.
Yeah.
they really do.
Yeah. So awesome. And Connor, so what did you
I love Connor. I think he's so cute.
The scene where he went and found Lionel Luthor, so much older and disabled, I thought that was brilliantly written. And I love the way they're doing all the flashbacks and Connor's confused and talking about the big red barn. He's like, oh, well, you mean the Kent place down the road. I thought that was really well done.
That was nice.
That
As Bethany mentioned before, how great the casting is on this show, and we also have, they brought in so much diversity, and some characters they've changed and they've made it a more diverse cast, which is wonderful. In the cases where they've stuck to a pretty straightforward translation of the comics characters, it's eerie what perfectly cast people just visually they have found. And Connor is an example. Like, yikes! It's like they really did clone this guy to be Superboy.
He's perfect.
And you could say that about Dick Grayson looks perfect. I think to me, Donna Jason. That they nailed that the characters that they kept traditionally looking are like they popped right off a comic book page.
I mean, homage on the ones that they've changed that you recognize them.
Yeah.
And especially with.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you could go ahead.
My big question is on the diversity front, though. Why are they so determined to keep Cyborg out of the Titans?
Because he's been claimed by the Justice League.
But also by Doom Patrol. That's what's so weird is that they started Doom Patrol at the same time, and Doom Patrol already has a robot guy.
Yeah,
I know. That's definitely a sore spot.
Well, and that's one of those things that may come up in like a future season. Like, why, because I mean, we can build Connor's pretty easy, all things considered, and the fact that they found someone who looks as much like the Young Justice Connor in real life, that's really, really terrifyingly creepy. Especially when you go from watching a Young Justice episode with Connor in it to watching an episode to some of his episodes in Titans, and you're just like, the only definition, the only difference is like one is in 2D, one is in 3D.
And
Like
I think like
this-
the lack of Cyborg, not having Victor there, as Teen Titans comic book fans, we feel it and we miss him.
Yeah.
We feel like he should be there. It's probably not a problem for people who aren't, going back to the comics the way we are. So I think it's okay.
I know. I don't think he fits in Doom
Yeah.
Patrol though.
And he's got and I mean we've got a cyborg in Doom Patrol, and we've already seen where Doom Patrol has crossed over with Titans before, because Gar.
Right.
Except
It's the same world.
Yeah, it's the same world. I feel
Not anymore.
Yeah.
not anymore.
No,
Fair
I'm
enough.
serious. Crisis, they showed them two different worlds now.
Yeah.
Although that first Doom Patrol was so different that I think that Doom Patrol is still on the Titans world, but the Doom Patrol that has their own series is a different world.
It's a Crisis on Infinite Doom
Interest-
Patrols.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that chief is a crazy man. Yeah.
Yep.
All
I
of
mean,
them.
so I feel like we'll see him show up in a season. It may not be till season 4, or it may not be till the tail end of season 3. But I feel pretty strongly that we'll get our full Titans crew.
Yeah, we got to see the
I'm just
poster
curious
shot
to
at
see what
one
they do with
point,
Tara.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was
I
surprised
was
to
have
see
to say Tara.
Yeah.
I'm waiting
Yeah,
for that.
Tara will show up.
And there
I was
was a
surprised to see
reference.
them add Crypto. And
Yes.
I love it. I
Yes.
think Crypto's great fun.
Well, that's one of our side comments. Somebody was saying Crypto was the MVP of the season.
Yes.
You know,
And it was great, and it makes sense. If you're a scientist, you got to do your animal trial first, and
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
in that sense,
I mean, and it's Crypto. Like, it's Crypto. Like,
I was thrilled that there was at least a reference to Roy. Now, if we could hear at least
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
about Wally, then we'd have pretty much all the mainstream Titans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and I know, and we know that Donna, like you said, Waylon, Donna was talking to a Roy Harper
Yeah.
at one point. So, I'm curious to see when that'll come
Shows up.
through. So,
yeah, since it's a separate world. One of our comments is commenting, but then CW world is not the same world. DC's made that very clear. They're all,
Yeah.
even with Crisis.
yeah, they're all different.
so-
Yeah.
But I'm always concerned. We talk about bringing Vic back in, but do we want him in like as a vignette like Garth, or do we actually want him as a full-time cast member? There's a bunch of people like you said you'd like to see Wally and stuff, and I'm like, but I would really love to see them as full-time members,
Yeah.
not as these flashbacks or
Yeah.
he gave his life and so he's honorary. No, I don't want any of that. I would love to see them, as they're juggling all these characters. I want them to bring these other ones in, but then you sacrifice time, developments, plot
Yeah.
line for the others. And at some point, I mean, the cast is getting huge at this point. Where are they going to draw the line, and
Well,
who doesn't make the cut?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've already kind of seen in season 2 where they're doing kind of a soft walk off of some characters, like with Hawk and Dove, where there's the are they, aren't they? So that's going to have to be resolved. Hank only has so much mobility left.
Yeah.
So I mean, it could just be passing the torch kind of thing, where
Right.
people go off and they retire and or try to retire. Let's be honest.
Or Ravenheel's Hank.
it's comics, so
Yeah.
But,
So
and this, they definitely have set up the dichotomy of the old team versus the new team.
mhm.
As part of this, and of course the comics were always Titans East, Titans West. We had both,
Yeah.
so there's lots to pull from.
yes.
And DC, one thing it's good, and well, actually, let's be honest, all the comic, when they think about it, they realize there's a bigger world, and so dropping in little references is great fan service, and we eat it up, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So,
All right. And to make Bethany happy now. So we had, as we mentioned earlier, we had lots of villains, starting from, the Trigon, finishing up that Trigon arc, which I really hated. And I love that initial storyline. I didn't like the way they did Trigon.
Yeah.
I was like, no, please no. But that's probably the biggest storyline I've disliked. But then, of course, we bring in everything from Dr. Light, who's,
Mhm.
Yeah, that was
I thought he
Yeah.
was more effective in the show than I thought he was back in the comics.
Yeah.
Well, I like that they had him just kind of working for Deathstroke because Dr. Light
Yeah.
was always sort of a lesser.
Well,
Super
Dr. Light
villain.
wasn't too bright.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and granted, though, with regards to Trigon, I mean, any Castle fans, were
Oh, yeah.
either really, really amused or really, really like shocked that
Yeah.
Detective Ryan is, this demon from another
I was
planet.
amused, but it was just like, this is not the demon lord of
No,
Yeah.
it came off
It's
kind
like
of
the Wonder
smarmy.
Woman movie when Ares turns out to be this little geeky guy. It was just like that.
Yeah,
No.
Track.
I mean, have a good makeup artist. Come on.
We'll
But-
fix it in post.
but no.
Yeah.
So Isai Morales as Deathstroke
Yes.
is, I
Because now
think,
we're on 4 Deathstrokes so far.
this
Yeah.
is
Oh,
the
at least.
best one. This is the best one
think
out of
he's great?
all of
Okay.
them.
He's great. I've been a
Okay,
fan of
good,
his
good.
for quite a while, and
Sure.
NYPD Blue, and more
Yes.
recently on Ozark, and he's always done great work. So
mean-
I was very happy to see him here.
Yeah, and he's just, I mean, when you get what you get from Deathstroke and Slade Wilson in the comics, as opposed to what we get from the different iterations of him in movies. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Mano Bennett. He's very pretty to look at. But I will admit my first thought was, oh God, why did they make him hot when I saw who he was in Arrow? Because that's not really Deathstroke. But Isai Morales nailed this one, from the demeanor, the way he thought, his wintergreen, and I mean, send one up for Adeline Kane, because Mako did an amazing job with that role. And it was,
It's so much more developed in this.
yeah, I mean, there was so much there that someone coming into it could just fresh off the boat, whatever, could totally grasp it. But for people who knew the intricacies of the backs and forths between all of them, it was like a fun little Easter egg thing too, because you're like, oh, someone was paying attention. So I mean, yeah, no, Isai Morales' Deathstroke will just forever be my Deathstroke, and everybody else can go take a seat.
I had some questions when I first read that casting, but yeah, he did a brilliant job with it. He
Yep.
really did.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of the writers. Let's be honest. I
Yeah.
mean,
Sure.
really.
Worked
Oh,
for
sure.
him as Deathstroke and for Ian as Bruce Wayne was they both had the older, I've seen it all, I've been there, and I'm just tired. And I thought they both did that really
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Well, then you get the 3rd generation of heroes. That was the original heroes. And then we have the Titans, and now we have the new team. So
Also on the
But-
villains front, for old-timey Titans fans, it was fun for that little cameo appearance when Donna and Corey were capturing Shimmer,
Sure, yes.
Yes.
because that was a pretty obscure villain from Dr. Light's old supervillain team, the
I kept
Fearsome
waiting for them
Five.
to show up after they mentioned both of them.
well, and you've got, and I mean, Blackfire is amazing, and I can't wait
Yeah.
to see what she lights on fire in season 3. But yeah, and especially that the Deathstroke final battle.
Yeah.
I mean, the choreography for that is
That was
so stunning. Like, visually, it's stunning. And can I just say, I'm so happy that you can see all of it. Like, it's dark, but you can see it.
yeah, the show is often shot very dark, which is sometimes annoying.
But well, I mean, compared to some other shows, there's been parts of Game of Thrones or Arrow
Yeah,
or
yeah,
sometimes where I'm like,
that-
this would be great, but I have no idea what's going on because I can't.
That's been an ongoing issue lately. Is a lot of these new shows are literally too dark, quite a bit. That's sometimes I'm like, is this me? Is it my TV? What's
Yeah.
happening?
Any book late.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it in daylight, which is
Oh yeah.
Well, one,
I'm like,
one
if
thing
I have to start playing with the contrast of my television in
Yeah.
order to actually see
Mhm.
what's going on the screen, there is a problem.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. There's some shows where it's like we can't watch this in the day. We have to wait until night, turn all the lights off because they just shoot this thing. To
Yeah.
Mandalorian is
Yeah.
super dark. You know?
Yeah.
Lovecraft Country, too.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
see that.
Good to know.
But yeah, Titans. There is some dark
I-
shit with Titans.
All
I
things
think
said and
this-
done, I thought season 2 was, in a sense, a little less dark. There were a few more optimism points that the
Yeah.
first season, at least
Yes,
initially,
figuratively
turned,
dark. Yes.
turned me off to. Where this season it felt, just not a little bit lighter. It seemed to flow a little bit better. It wasn't as relentlessly grim. They
actually
had points, but it
Building
was
the family.
it was
Yeah.
a lot. It was a much more enjoyable season for
Well,
me as well.
you had a couple parties there up at the tower. Not all
And it's
that's
hard
right.
just because so many horrible things are happening, and so they're going to be angry and depressed and miserable, and based on what's happening around them, they have to be. And so
Yeah.
it's a balancing act, though, because you also you need lighter moments, you need happy moments, or else how are we going to make it through
Or
this
else you all
show?
go insane.
Mhm.
Yes.
Well, you need the
Yeah.
high to appreciate the low, or vice
Yeah.
versa. So yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we've got and then of course you've got some of the characters who are just ridiculously sunshine and puppies all over, which is Garfield Logan. And
I
he's just
love him.
But then the Gar's always been that way. So yeah.
Gar's always been that way, but I mean he's actually one character that I like a lot more in Titans than I do in some of the other iterations that I've seen of him.
Yeah.
He's just there's something that I think it's Ryan Potter that he just brings to the role that's just like you just want to wrap him up in bubble wrap and like keep him safe forever.
Definitely
He's
makes
really
it more
the heart of the
likable.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go with that, but I'll always say that Changeling was a much better name than Beast Boy.
Yes.
Yes.
But we haven't gotten to the name change for him yet.
Yeah.
We've just handled Robin to Nightwing.
Yeah.
Which and we're going to be seeing a lot more of that, is what somebody mentioned earlier on, which not to spoiler those who are not comic readers, but perhaps that is one of the reasons what happened to Donna happened.
Right.
So, which I love that storyline in the comics. So I'm really hoping that's where they go with that.
Yeah.
Dark Star.
Yeah. So, but then that means getting into more, galactic celestial vibe, which maybe that's what they're going to do. Although a lot of the characters being brought on for season 3 aren't those characters. When we've been told about this, stuff, the casting they've done for season 3.
Oh,
Well, some of the casting.
Some of the casting.
I haven't heard this yet. But
So, well, we Bethany, you want to jump in with some of that because you were making a hint or two earlier.
Bethany is
I read it,
bouncing.
but I'll let somebody else do it.
Well, we do know that for season 3, we are seeing Jason go from Robin to Red Hood.
Oh, without the satisfaction of getting him killed.
okay.
And yes, without being killed, which I'm very curious to see how they're going to do this, and I'm really happy because, just not having to see another Robin be beaten to death with a crowbar would be nice. I'm just
But
saying.
he is that Robin.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying that would be nice.
Yeah.
So we do get Red Hood, and we are getting Scarecrow.
Oh wow.
Which is gonna be and I'm intensely curious to see how that's gonna play out, because they're moving it. I do know that we are looking at they're shifting the focus from San Francisco more towards Gotham City, so we are going to get more Bat Family in there,
Mhm.
which is
Interesting.
and it's gonna
kind
be.
of disappoints me a little bit.
And they
Well,
announced
I mean, on the one hand, it's always fun to see them in San Francisco. On the other hand, I really kind of want to see more of this world's Gotham. Like,
We
And
just
especially-
granted, Batman is their bread and butter. I grant that, but we've got Batwoman. We've got so many iterations of that in various forms. It'd be nice to see other places.
Some other places.
Yeah.
How about
And they don't do
Bloodhaven?
San
How
Fran
about
very
Bloodhaven?
often.
It's close. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Bloodhaven. But like Waylon pointed out earlier, we don't know about Gar and Dick. Are they still fugitives? And if they're still fugitives going back to Gotham, that's going to be a little interesting. Dick is not exactly the most incognito person. especially not in the city that literally watched him be raised.
Mhm.
And the other super interesting thing that we learned is that we are going to see Barbara Gordon,
Yes.
Mm.
Ooh.
but she's going to be Commissioner Barbara Gordon.
Makes sense.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. It also makes me kind of want to think about like what are they doing with the age differences? Because while Barbara's always been older than Dick, I mean, granted, this probably plays back to the earlier point of they don't know anything about the criminal justice system, but they stated that she's probably going to be in her early 30s, and I don't know, a police commissioner in her early 30s, that just seems
Yeah.
a little.
Come on, it's TV. They're always
TV.
younger than their
Well, the
Yeah,
It's
woman
Gotham. Nobody wants the spot.
even on this season, the scientist who cloned Connor, she seemed
Yeah.
awfully young to be the scientist in
True.
charge of that project. But
God
that's
forbid
TV.
you cast somebody age appropriate. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
Yeah.
We like young, pretty people.
Hey, if they can get Dina Meyer to be their
Oh.
Barbara Gordon, I will not have a
yes.
single word to say.
I
I will not
I
have
will
a
say
Best
single
part of
word
that
to
series
say.
Dina is wonderful.
If they get Dina Meyer to be Barbara Gordon again, I would be like, sure, fine, okay, I'm here.
Sold.
I will.
We're good.
But then DC
So-
has, retcon the whole Killing Joke thing anyway with New 52. So
Yeah.
she,
I mean, Dina Walker. Dina Walker,
Dina Meyer, I think.
Dina Meyer, whether she's on two legs or four wheels. I mean, it's
yeah.
she was one of the best parts of the Birds of Prey TV show
Yes.
Mhm.
because
Okay.
she was
I think
she was
it'd be
a
great if they-
believable Gordon.
Can you imagine if they did a police commissioner who was in a wheelchair? That would be pretty awesome.
I would be over the moon. I would be doing not cartwheels in my backyard. So there's that. I mean, and they're gonna have more Titans information released out
Next weekend.
next weekend.
Yeah, actually,
and,
well. So there we go.
Yep. And then well, Babs is still disabled in a lot of the comics. She also has an implant in her back that allows her to walk, but it can short out. So they might be doing something with that as well. I mean, it depends on where they pick
Hey,
the
it works
Babs
with
from.
Felicity, so why not?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll be all for more disability rep.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But
Well, and then the Titans though also have lots of good villains. Bringing in Scarecrow. He always seems to be the one when you want to trot out somebody's inner demons. Let's bring in Scarecrow. Every show when they want to do that.
Mhm.
See, if you want to do a different direction with that for Titans, they should have used Phobia. Because she does pretty much the same thing, and she's actually
Yeah.
a Titan.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and-
guess the other big Titans villain that they could get to, Brother
yeah,
Blood.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they
Oh, yeah.
aren't necessarily bringing him in as Scarecrow. They are bringing him in as Dr. Jonathan Crane.
Mm.
So,
Well,
in Arkham. So it could be that we're doing like Dr. Harleen Quinzel, Harley Quinn sort of thing.
They've got
Yeah, I feel like I'm with Kelly on this. I don't like that they're going so heavy into baddie Gotham territory. But,
Well-
they could prove me wrong, though.
Yeah, I hear what
Yeah.
you're saying, Kevin, but part of Titans has always been, at least even the Deathstroke aspect, it's a lot of psychological stuff in general.
Yeah.
And so, have
there are the people who do that.
so
Yeah.
but exploring that realm, whoever they choose, I still think is a nice venue. Titans never, I mean, I guess they can be, but without Vic and some of the powerhouses where Starfire really isn't that at that level at this moment, they really
They
can't
got
keep up.
Connor
Keep
though,
up.
too.
But you have Connor, you don't have Donna anymore, so you have one heavily powered person. The rest are lower power individuals. You can't have
Mhm.
Bizarros coming through. You have to have something that's a little bit more scaled down. And
Cheaper
Well-
special effects.
Yeah, and also, I mean, given that it's Dr. Jonathan Crane in Arkham, and we also get Blackfire. I mean, yeah, this is probably gonna hit. Like season 2 is Dick's mental breakdown over several episodes. So this upcoming season, I wouldn't be surprised if it if it focused more on all the other members of the team
Mm.
having to deal with some of their own internal stuff. I mean, we've seen
yeah.
we've seen Raven do it. We've seen Dick do it. We've gotten a little bit of that from Garfield, but Connor still has to reconcile a whole bunch of crap.
Yeah, when he really realizes the two sides of him.
Oh
And
yeah,
they've been building Corey for a while, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Corey's due for a lot more than what we've gotten.
Like
Yeah.
Flight.
yeah, and then we still don't know the full casting yet. So it could very well be that they slide in Tara. I mean, we've also got the fun thing between Jericho and Rose.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little bit of an interesting thing to sort out. So I'm very curious, and I want to say I'm more cautiously optimistic about this show than I have been about some others.
Along these lines, one of the things I'm thinking with you bringing up, maybe it isn't Scarecrow after all, but the fact that we saw Bruce and we never saw Batman,
True.
with Glenn coming on, maybe he is literally coming on as Dr. Jonathan Crane, years down the line, and maybe literally just acting as a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
So,
And
Raven still needs
honestly,
work. Yeah.
yeah, and honestly, like the comment just popped up here. Red Hood alone is everywhere right now, and
Mhm.
as a Red Hood, I'm okay with that. Like, I it's
He's
everybody focuses on
popular,
like
yeah.
Nightwing and Robin and all that stuff, and so I'm really happy to see my boy everywhere at the moment.
I have been reading comics long enough that back when the original telephone poll first came up about does Jason live or does Jason die, I
Yeah,
absolutely called in and I absolutely voted to kill him.
Yeah, I
you.
didn't
You're the
much
one.
care for the character back
Well,
then.
it's good that he did make him a carbon copy of Dick. It doesn't make sense, not every kid you pick up off the street are going to turn into
Yeah.
Robin or Nightwing. So,
and I think the chemistry we see between Brenton and Curran plays that up really well because they've both inhabited essentially the same role, but they both are
Mhm.
very, very different people.
Oh, absolutely.
And half
Yeah.
the problem and half of Jason Todd's kind of neurosis was that people kept expecting him to be Dick, and he wasn't.
That's what I'd love to see. If they're bringing in Jonathan Crane as a psychiatrist,
Yeah,
Jason really seriously needs therapy. I would love to
Yes.
see some of that.
Maybe
Yes.
not Jonathan Crane therapy, but some kind of therapy.
I
Yeah.
mean,
maybe that's
and
why
that
he
would,
goes to Red Hood. So.
yeah, I mean, and that would be an interesting thing to see, especially, and it would also kind of be a semi callback to Birds of Prey, where we see Dr. Harleen Quinzel,
Right.
but we don't see Harley Quinn
Yep.
so much, and that would be fascinating to see. Also, Bruce reacting to whatever they're going to do with Red Hood. He has lost yet another kid.
It's just England
So-
can't be cheap.
Yeah, and
And if
that's
we lose Jason to Red Hood and he goes all anti-hero, are we going to open up a way for Tim Drake?
yes.
Somebody just dropped
Somebody-
in.
Look at that.
I
That's a
swear that was
timing
an
on that.
Minus the top.
So and then of course if we get Timmy Drake, then that kind of brings with it some other fun little bits, because then you'll have and he's a completely different Robin from the other two.
Yes.
Yep.
I'd love to find out who they'd cast for that.
One
And with
Robin.
Tim Drake, yeah. Well, and with
Two-
Tim
two
Drake, we
Robins
also
is enough for
potentially
me.
get Stephanie.
I would love to see Stephanie.
Stephanie froze.
She did.
Yeah.
That would be
yeah.
a nice change, actually, instead of seeing Tim, to see Stephanie come up.
And it would make
Or see
sense.
both. I'd love to see both of them.
Yeah.
Hey, she's back.
Yeah. You were
I'm really
freezing a
excited
little
for
bit there,
Titans.
Bethany. So, but we only have about 10 minutes left. So what do you? I mean, we're kind of been talking about the new season. What storyline, other than the ones we've talked about, do you want to see pulled it more in, or what are you hoping for?
Roy. I'd love to see Roy Harper.
I
Yeah.
would love to
I'd
see
love
Roy.
to
Do you want to
Dog
see
as
Arsenal?
Wally West.
Or do you want
What?
to see Arsenal or Speedy?
Roy has had so many incarnations that you could do almost anything with him. For a long time, he was a government agent.
True.
He was
Yeah.
with Checkmate. He was with, what was it, the CBI, and he was with the DEA
Yeah.
even for a while.
Yeah.
There are a lot of ways you could work. I mean, I'd love to see them do something with Roy.
Yeah,
I'd love
and
some
they,
sort of
they could bring in
acknowledgement.
Cheshire. They could bring in Cheshire along with Roy
Yeah.
as well.
Sure.
That'd be fun.
And some
I
sort
mean-
of
I mean-
Wally, I'd also love to see.
Yeah. And
Titans West. Let's see Mal and Bumblebee.
I would, yeah, Lilith. Remember Lilith?
And,
Yeah,
There's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
old school Titans characters that they could get around to eventually if there's time.
And Lilith just looks so normal. You'd never know. You know, they wouldn't have to take a lot. So.
She didn't have a superhero costume. She's a psychic lady in her civilian clothing.
until
Yeah.
the
Done.
she became Omen.
Mm-hmm. And anybody else want to chime in with the storyline they want?
I always like the Terra
Yeah.
the
Well, and since they've got
story with that.
the
They
whole
kind of
Deathstroke-
paralleled that a little bit with Rose this season.
Yeah, a little
because
bit.
She was infiltrating the Titans on behalf of Deathstroke, so they kind of did a Terra riff with Rose.
Yeah, I'm not sure they'll
Yeah.
probably bring in just reinvent her in a different way.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
What I'd love to see, not even necessarily on the show, but like release some short stories. We know this world has a Justice League.
Yeah.
We know this world has at least some of Batman's rogues. I want to see the other edges of this particular world because of the DC Universe shows. It seems like it's the best developed after Stargirl, maybe. And I would just love to see some of what else is happening in that world.
I'd like to see the Starfire arc go into space, and if I could really see the Omega Man, I would love it.
Oh.
But I would love to actually see them, go to, was it
Tamaran.
Kandar?
Tamaran.
Okay,
Yeah.
Tamaran, and for an episode or two to hash this all out in person, as opposed to
That would
taking
be
over
cool.
other people's bodies and stuff like that. That would be nice. That would be a fun thing.
And if they go into space, there's so many other characters they could bring in, like Hawkman or Adam Strange or any of their Spaceborns,
Yep.
the Green Lantern, maybe.
Space Caddy.
I
lot of
I'd like to see Jaime Beetle. I would really love to see them pull in Blue Beetle.
Yeah. Again, like the DC universe is so wide open with it's when you the show is Titans and you kind of think within the Titans universe, and it's also complicated. I think there's so many DC shows now that you can you put everybody on every show, because that practically feels like that sometimes.
And that seems what Legends has dabbled in more so than Titans has. So, and they have a bigger budget.
Well, Legends is just fun. I can't take it seriously as a show,
No.
but it might be the one I enjoy the most. It is so entertaining.
People.
Yeah.
Oh, hell, Bebo!
That's a different panel. That's someday.
I really love to sell the plushie of Bebo. I would so buy that.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't believe they haven't, honestly. So.
I
They
have
would
a
sell off the shelves.
I have a sticker on my computer on my laptop that is a Bebo, the God of War, love.
I need to find that.
My friend did a Bebo costume this year that was supposed to show up if things had worked out differently.
Oh man,
Okay, way off topic. Has any, of course, the changing over with DC Universe going away, and now it's the HBO Max, and of course they moved Stargirl to CW. There's a lot of stuff up in the air. What are your perspectives on just the stability of the show in the future and where to find it and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's one of the premier shows of the DC streaming service.
Why I bought it.
on because they only launched with a handful of these new shows like Doom Patrol and Swamp Thing and Stargirl, and which the last two of which are jumping ship over to CW. So now on HBO, suddenly instead of a big show, that's a little tiny show in the giant HBO universe, right? So yeah, there is that concern that it can get lost in the shuffle. It could be not considered as high a priority by the people making decisions about what to put money behind.
Are you going to pay for
especially
HBO Max just for Titans?
Just for Titans, no, but as much DC content as they're moving over there, that may sell me.
yeah. I will move over as when I have to. I mean, I have HBO for Westworld, so and as far as we know, to answer the question from the comment, we don't have an official shutdown date.
Oops.
As far as they don't intend really to shut down the app, as
Right,
they
but
are.
the comics are still going to be available through
The
it.
comics are still going to be available. I'm hoping they don't take all of the movies off of it, because like we bought it because I realized that we got shows and movies and comics, and it's cheaper than Amazon Prime for a year. So I was like, oh no, yes, sold. So we've gone back and we've rewatched like all of Batman the Animated Series, watched Batman Beyond, gotten to catch up on like all of these movies we hadn't seen before, and like Young Justice, everything. So, I mean, will I buy HBO Max for Titans and Young Justice? Yeah, probably. But DC Universe isn't technically going to go away. It's going to kind of shift focus. And with shifting focus, there better be a price shift as well. Otherwise, it's going to go bye-bye. But we don't have an official shutdown date because as of right now, they are not planning to sunset the service. It's just they're moving some stuff off to get a wider audience, and
They're not closing it
that's
down.
what their plans are.
You watch it for it is going away.
Yeah, but then again, also reading comics that you can't actually get in hardcover, or well, not just hardcover, just in trade form or drop form at all, because they're out of print. A lot of those have been up there, so being able to read some stuff that I've never actually been able to get my hands on has been nice.
But as far as it going over to HBO, it is going to be a wider audience. We could get a lot more fans come out for this. As I see people titles coming out on Netflix and Amazon, there are people jumping onto these little seasons just to see what it is, and they've never read a comic book or seen anything, and they're hopping on all sorts of material that they would have touched if it was couched in the DC Universe channel. But on HBO, they'll hit it. So,
right, stuff like Watchmen or Umbrella Academy, and there's other comic
They
book
might have a bigger
properties out
budget
there.
too, so we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah. And once the Netflix contract ends, the comment here that popped up was brings up a good point. Yeah, and most of the CW stuff is probably going there once the Netflix contract ends.
Well, it doesn't cost them anything.
Yeah, well, I know, not again, we're sidetrack a little bit. I know, honestly, the contract Netflix had with CW paid for 90% of those shows. You know, their overhead was pretty low on that level. But if they're already seen on broadcast, will people tune into them on HBO? So,
yeah.
So
true.
Any last thoughts? We're in kind of our last 2 minutes, and
I'm really anxious for next season. I'm looking forward to a lot of different things. If they can keep going the way they're going, I think it's going to be a great season for everybody. So,
yeah, I mean, these are characters that we've seen in so many different formats, and even people who don't go back to the comics the way we do have seen the Teen Titans in the kiddie cartoon versions, Teen Titans Go, and now they've seen so many of these characters.
Even the ones back in the 70s.
Yeah, the CW shows and the movies, and now this dark adult take on them for the TV series. So I think it's cool that people, I think, are on board with the idea of there can be different versions of the same properties and they can each find their audience.
Yeah.
I still think back to that first trailer that came out and with Dick cursing and everybody going,
you know, he was thinking it all those years and couldn't say it.
I think old Robbins have probably thought that at one point or another.
Yeah, you know, everybody had this huge outcry over this, and meanwhile I'm sitting over here thinking, going, okay, now you officially have my interest.
I was thinking, is that Todd?
No, Kelly, as what I'm looking forward to is just Red Hood. I mean,
I'm looking forward. Yeah.
I am cautiously curious to see what they do with or to Barbara.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that. I really want to see what they do with Coriander and Blackfire.
Wow, we're all over the place because I was going to say I'm really hoping with Troya. Because
Yeah, that'd be cool.
yeah, because then when Donna showed up in first season, I was like, yes, and they had the relationship he had with Dick was so perfect. It was such a sibling relationship. So I'm really hoping this is not the end of her story. If they did, I'm going to be pissed off.
Well, hopefully we get 3 more seasons to flesh all of your hopes out.
Yeah, so we're all over the place. All right,
3 more
everybody.
seasons. Can't we have 15? Just do the
yeah.
supernatural thing.
Yeah. But all right, everybody, thank you very much for being a part of this panel. We had some
thanks for letting us.
comments, and Bethany, you can thank your roommate for being on the panel and comments. So
She was the pre-show entertainment.
exactly. So, but other than that, just be sure you check out all the other content that we're going to be having. And if you haven't seen Titans, definitely go out and watch it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.